Ladies and gentlemen, all right. Thank you so much for coming to Tipitina's. Even though you're not physically here, you're here with us in heart. My guest tonight is a extremely talented musician, born and bred from New Orleans. You know him from bands such as Sweet CRUDE, Alexis and the Samurai, Glasgow, if you're old enough, and the Jagged Little Pill tribute, which is a highlight every year here at Tipitina's. Ladies and gentlemen, Sam Kraft.
Thank you. Please sit down. Thank you.
Sorry about that weird intro.
I was thoroughly entertained.
That was pretty funny, right? Like, I learned that when I was like 8 or 9 years old.
I like that we talked beforehand about the family appeal, the broad
I know.
audience.
He's going to have to beep a lot of that stuff. Sorry, Nick.
It'll find a place on the internet for sure.
It's an old joke. I don't know. I know he didn't write it. That's for sure. He definitely didn't write it.
Well, you definitely told it very well.
I had to practice it earlier when I was thinking about it. It's like, I haven't said this out loud in a long time. So, I mentioned all the bands that you're in. You are from New Orleans, and you are seemingly a jack of all trades, even though your brother's name is Jack. Sorry about that. Who is also in Sweet CRUDE with you as well.
Yeah.
But seemingly, when I say jack of all trades, whenever I see you perform, it's almost like you put an instrument in front of you, and seemingly it's with total ease that you are performing in front of people. How many instruments do you play?
I play a couple of instruments well, and a lot of instruments okay.
Just faking it?
Yeah, or, generally if they have strings on them, I can figure it out.
Okay.
And if it's got keys, I can pretty much figure it out. And I've gotten good enough to make it look like I know what I'm doing on like a piano.
Distractions with other band members make it seem like you're doing more.
Yeah, just put the heart into it, but anything that you blow into, I'm no good at.
No.
So my dad is a trombone player, got me and my brothers into music, and my mom is a woodwind player. They met in the Tulane band. They handle that department.
All right.
We do the strings.
Well, you mentioned your family. You are one of 5 children, all musicians, I assume?
All dabbled at some point or other.
Okay, not all professional, but all are recreationally playing music.
Yeah, exactly. It became at one time or other becomes mandatory in our household to play music, and it so happened that Jack and I just stuck with it so long that it became our job.
Well, you guys are only a year apart, right?
That's right.
So are you the closest in age?
Yeah. We have an older brother who's like 8 years older than me.
Oh, okay.
And then we have 2 younger sisters who came along much later, and they're quite a bit younger. So we kind of it kind of happened right at the right time where we could play music together and kind of had the same friends and kind of had the same idea. We were listening to the same music at the same time, so we had the same influences. And
you guys are the same generation. Everyone else is far apart.
Right.
Well, so is there? I was going to ask you about the family band. I know the New Leviathan Oriental Foxtrot Orchestra is kind of a family band.
It is a little bit. We're lucky to have been, I guess, nepotized into it.
All right.
And so we've got. Me and Jack kind of got brought into there when we were like 12 or 13, kind of thrown on the bandstand, play some Scott Joplin, go for it. And that was an awesome kind of baptism because we were able to play like the traditional jazz of New Orleans, and at the same time be in a real gig, So our dad kind of had put trust in us from a very young age to just kind of hold our own on the bandstand, and that was an awesome kind of life lesson, about being professional.
Well, I mean, you guys were teenagers. You got to play things like Jazz Fest, right? As a child going to play Jazz Fest.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. A lot of fun gigs, got to go on the road at a young age and all of that stuff. Got to experience what that was like in a very strange way. I mean, it doesn't equate to being in a rock band, a pop. It's like a bunch of let's just say it's most people in the group have their AARP card, and so it's not rambunctious. And like the joke you told would have been a joke that we would have heard, in a rehearsal or whatever.
Okay.
It's a little bit cranky. It's a little off colored. It's a little everything in that world is just on a totally different level. And everyone's a real nerd,
All right.
So it's just it's an odd bunch of people that are just very that are like a big family.
Are they still playing shows?
Still playing together after all these years, and some of these people. The group has been around for 40 some odd years or whatever, and a lot of the people, some of the people have been there from the beginning, and
Wow.
so. And this is a group that played like Saturday Night Live in the 70s and has been just doing lots of interesting, fascinating things and have been like a cultural staple for a while. So it was awesome to get to experience that from early on.
Well, so I guess early on you just knew that professional music playing was probably in your future.
Yeah, I mean, like from like play air guitar with the broom in front of the mirror type stuff, like very classic kind of dreams of rock stardom. That started off pretty early on, and I had another musician to play with in the house and my brother, so it was like it felt very natural to kind of get into that. So yeah.
Well, so like I said, you grew up here. And you went to Ben Franklin for high school,
Yep.
right? One of the smart kids.
Maybe.
One of the, it's the smart kid high school in this town for sure, for anyone who doesn't know. And then you go to the Loyola Music Program, is that correct?
Yeah, I did. And at the same time as Franklin, I did NOCCA.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I did write that down.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Well, you did your homework, I trust. And then Jack and I both did NOCCA. You had Big Sam on. He's a NOCCA grad. I mean, it's like very common in this town.
You
I
talked
guess.
a lot about Kid Jordan, and yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
So a lot of NOCCA people are really doing well out there. So we're glad to have been part of that community. And then later on, Loyola, studied violin at Loyola and NOCCA. And got to major in classical violin.
So rock star of you, man.
So rock star. I guess that's what you do with the violin in terms of like that's generally what's there for you.
Yeah, I mean historically, right?
Yeah, traditionally, yeah. And I when I started at NOCCA, like 9th grade or whatever, I pushed to do jazz violin. And kind of I was in that world with my dad, with the music that we were playing with the New Leviathan group.
Yeah.
So it kind of made sense, although they were just like, yeah, that's cute, but do classical. And I felt insulted at first, but it was like, I get it, because you will learn the technique that you need in a classical program. And then whatever you want to apply that to, be it jazz or in my case now, I play pretty much mostly pop music on the violin.
Yeah.
So if you want to, however you want to apply it, and I'm super into traditional Cajun fiddle, although it's not anything that I'm like experienced in. It's just something that I'd love to get better at. But that's another thing that I'm applying classical technique to every kind of genre of music.
Well, for Cajun violin fiddle, it's not like there's a whole lot of schools for training for that. It's something that's more learned from family or from your neighbors or whatever else.
Typically, and places like Lafayette are trying to institutionalize it and have made great strides in like the Acadiana Center for the Arts is a place where you can get kind of formalized fiddle lessons and stuff like that. But yeah, it's not something that runs deep in academia. It's not common to get a scholarship in Cajun fiddle, at a university.
No, I imagine it's very rare.
Yeah.
So let's step back to NOCCA, and I always love asking people who go to NOCCA this, trying to think how old you might be. Who was in your class? You were in school with at NOCCA that is still performing professionally
You might
today?
know Chris Royal.
I do know Chris Royal.
Trombone Shorty.
I was going to say him, Trombone Shorty, and John Batiste, and John Michael Bradford? Maybe I'm saying a different wrong name.
Yeah, he might have graduated before me, but around the same time. John Batiste, for sure. Several others that are killing it out there. Out there winning awards and selling records.
It's kind of a weird, I don't know what the right word is, but that time period of graduating the late 90s, early 2000s from NOCCA, they just spurned a just phenomenal crop of musicians.
It was a good time.
That are still 20 years later or whatever, you're still seeing headlining bills and playing all over the country. It's phenomenal to know. It puts you in good company.
Certainly, it was a fertile time to be there, and it's really fun being at a festival or whatever and running into someone who went to NOCCA, and then you're like peers in that moment,
Absolutely.
or whatever,
Absolutely.
You kind of have the same. It's an awesome kind of family thing that you feel for people who went to NOCCA.
Another group that I think you got, or another person you were performing with, fairly early on, possibly while you were a teenager with Susan Cowsill. Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, she's amazing, and she's one of the Cowsills. They're the real-life Partridge Family.
That's right. That's right. That was another great opportunity we were given as kind of just coming up, was playing in her band, going on the road, getting to experience what it's like when you put something on the rider and it is there in the green room. Not to disparage any venues who, I mean, it's like...
We don't always fulfill everything.
But
I mean, sometimes it's
Tipitina's,
crazy.
especially now, is amazing at artist hospitality, so I will say that. But, yeah, getting to experience that was amazing. Getting to experience, like, you know, I don't know, hang out with an artist when they're signing autographs at the end of every show, and, you know, like, having that experience of playing with someone whose music meant so much to a lot of people. Really awesome. And Susan's the best.
I mean, she's totally cool considering she's lived most of her life in the musician spotlight. It's kind of astounding as well. I think
she was like the child
rare.
in the family band, and yeah, had totally in her DNA, straight up, born to do it, still doing it, and she's awesome.
For sure. What I think now you are probably most known for is the Louisiana French. I don't know. Do you have a preference of Cajun versus Louisiana French?
Yeah,
calling it one versus the other?
We're trying to push Louisiana French versus Cajun French, simply because the Cajun identity represents part of the French-speaking population of Louisiana.
Yeah.
And
not all the French-speaking people were actually Cajuns.
Exactly.
I assume. Yes.
Exactly. And it just happened to be like a simplifying kind of word, a catch-all, like, oh, French heritage, Louisiana, you're Cajun.
Yeah.
If you're white.
Yeah.
And then if you're black, you're Creole. And this became like a strain that evolved kind of in the 20th century, I guess. And then, you know, my mom was very plain in saying, like, we're like our French heritage is not Cajun. It's French, or it's Creole, or whatever. And so that was good to hear from a young age. And so, yeah, it's we prefer to say Louisiana French because it's more inclusive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that just needs to become part of the vernacular over time.
It's slowly getting there.
Well, tell me a little bit about maybe just the musicality of Louisiana French. Obviously, with Sweet Crude, that's the first time in a band, at least, you were singing in French. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. Yeah, you know, occasionally I would play a Cajun tune here and there for a gig or with another band or whatever. But I hadn't really given it that much thought. But, yeah, it became a real education to sing in it, to aspire to write lyrics in this dialect, and to really feel like at home with it.
Yeah.
But it's been awesome. I think music is just like such a great way to access language. It was my inroad into learning the specifically the Louisiana French dialect and vernacular. And so, yeah, it's being able to write in it, or, you know, putting the knowledge to work and writing new lyrics in that is really awesome and fun.
But it wasn't something that you were necessarily raised with, even though there were people in your family who had spoken French.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of like when I had the chance maybe to hear that, I didn't care. I was probably just too busy playing a Game Boy, or just like not really, you know, aware of it, but really not putting forth much effort there. But later on, I, you know, really wanted to fill in the gaps and kind of reconnect with that and kind of reestablish what had been lost, perhaps. So that was really the real big reason to do it, was to kind of like replace what was lost in the family.
I think you hit the nail on the head, not even just for your family specifically, but for the amount of people who, considering the amount of people who used to speak French in Louisiana, that was almost entirely wiped away about 100 years ago. Seemingly only now is it like, hey, let's preserve this. Why are we trying to get rid of it? Why did we try and force kids to not speak it at all and shame them for speaking it? Yeah,
it's really amazing how huge, like the way the numbers kind of dwindle down in generations. It's like you know, like an exponentially disproportionate correlation or whatever, where each generation it really dwindles. And people are smarter now about the fact that it doesn't hurt your education to have two languages. I think there was probably a mentality, probably two things. One is like assimilation, you know, World War, you're American, you know.
The conspiracy
English.
theorist in me says it's a way to control people by controlling their language.
Definitely.
You know?
I mean, you're not wrong. In immigrant cultures and people for whom English was their second language, moving to the United States, it was centerpiece of getting everyone united for whatever reason.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
And that was a real focal point in small cultures and immigrant cultures. And then the irony, or I guess the strange part about it all, is that, you know, the eminent domain, the existence of French in Louisiana, predates a lot of the English that came.
Predates America.
Yeah, predates America. Yeah, and so that's very funny. And so we talk about heritage language, and we talk about French being a heritage language, and it's not a second language or a foreign language. It's a here language.
Yeah,
it was here before English, and then, you know, before that there were a number of Native American languages that were here, and so there's a lot of discussion about heritage language. We still call it, I guess, foreign language in school. That's a technical term. But, you know, with all the immersion schools that are happening right now in South Louisiana, it's amazing boom is happening. A whole new population of French speakers. And they're speaking the language that was here already.
Yeah,
it's a really interesting cultural moment that we're having.
Well, I actually, you know, not to point fingers at the North Shore, I saw there was recently a battle about, you know, people wanting a French immersion school, but the parish is not for it at all for some reason.
Yeah, St. Tammany Parish School Board, if I'm getting that right.
Huh?
Yeah, it's a weird, whatever requisite amount of signatures to get French immersion. The school board is very resistant to the idea. I'm not really sure what the deal is. Other parishes have been super let's go about it. But for some reason, St. Tammany, it's been a real kind of thing that's been going on for a few years now. And but there's some passionate parents that are really want it to happen, and you know, I think legally it has to happen. You know,
well, that's the thing. It's not like they're forcing it on people. People want it. They
totally.
If there's a way to get regular citizens excited about any form of education, especially just another language, I'm going to start complaining too much.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I don't have to explain this to you either. So
right, and it's an amazing, indelible kind of I guess permanent life skill thing, superpower that you give children. That they have potentially forever if they keep it up.
Yeah, there should be more bilingual people.
Yeah,
there should.
It's an incredible superpower that just opens up so many doors. And it's if you have it and it's free, it's public school.
Yeah,
why not? So that's what's happening. And I don't know. They'll get to act together one of these days, or if you know, parents want enough, they'll come to Orleans Parish or some other place where they can get it, or whatever the case may be. They'll St. Tammany will figure it out.
I suppose, maybe.
Especially now, as you know, the next step is make economic opportunities for learning the language, for having it. Which is unfortunately, Louisiana has the very curious issue of it, French being at a cultural forefront, but not being a commercially viable, not being right there. For example, that French speaking businesses, they exist, but they're not numerous. You know, there's not a ton of them. And so you leave school, you speak French. What do you do? Well, you could go to Europe. You go to French-speaking Canada, get work there. You can be an interpreter. You can teach French here. And so it's not like you just step right outside of school and oh great, I'm gonna work at the French music venue. I don't know. I'm gonna work at the French-speaking. I'm gonna use my French. For example, huge tourism economy here.
Yes.
Tons of people who come here who are French speakers would probably love to hear you tell the history of New Orleans in French. And there are some gigs like that, but there could be a ton of them. You know, so it just for example, using what we have here, which is basically taking our culture and making it into something that's we can put it right on a platter for people. Yeah, imagine a restaurant where you walked in and your attraction is that you speak French, and you can seat your guests and talk about the menu and do all of the stuff in French. And that's you go there to get a New Orleans, Louisiana French experience. You get your gumbo in French. You know, like, could you imagine that?
I could. Actually, I have a friend that works at there's a French American Chamber of Commerce here. Did you know that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if you have any contacts over there. I will hook you up with my friend Christine, who works over there.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because there's absolutely French business people that have interest in the Gulf Coast, specifically Louisiana.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: as far as Louisiana French, there is a slight disconnect or dialect difference between that and standard French from France. Is that right?
Yeah, and so that that gets us to something of like a point of dispute that sometimes arises where, for example, my mom, who heard a fair amount of French growing up, and then went to school and learned French, and she would come back and want to practice on grandma, grandpa, whatever. Yeah. And they'd be like, "Oh no, Sha, you know, like you're speaking something else. We're gonna speak our language with the old people playing cards, and you can speak your school French." And like, so right away there was a bit of a disconnect, and I think that's that bit of. It's like self-isolation. It's a little bit of feeling like other than has caused a big rift that really didn't need to happen.
Yeah.
Because the French of Louisiana deserves respect, and it's a perfectly viable, perfectly colorful dialect of French that let's just say the local vernacular of French is like any local vernacular, where it's like a lot of idioms that don't translate, a lot of slang that's probably hard to understand, a thick accent when compared to, like, say, the French you learn in school. So all of this stuff, I'd say, like, probably vocabulary-wise, 95% of it is the same.
Yeah.
There are some little fun grammar quirks that are borrowed that have stayed for hundreds of years, partially due to this, like, kind of isolation.
Yeah.
Some of which was a little bit self-imposed, and some of it was just like geographical, and they didn't have TV and stuff. And then there's, besides that, there's like, kind of like, I like to think that, there's an accent that's different.
Yeah.
There's just a plain old pronunciation.
That's different. I mean,
everywhere
I can't
you
understand people from certain parts of America.
Exactly. Precisely. So there's nothing weird about that. So it's a fun project of mine to kind of like lift up Louisiana French and be like, we can be proud of this. We can write music in this. We can write poetry. And sure enough, people are writing literature and music, and they don't have to, I guess, say like, I guess we don't have to put it down.
No.
Or I guess, or even like, you might have heard the expression poverty porn, where it's like, I
haven't, but please explain. I'm interested.
I guess we don't have to just keep this thing with Mama and Pawpaw sitting around the table drinking coffee, or like on the porch with no shoes on. Like, it doesn't have to live in this bucolic world.
Okay.
Essentially, all of the things are there, but for a lot of the case, because of like what happened in the 20th century, you basically have this like frozen in time version of French, where, for example, when it's time to talk about le garbage disposal. Okay, they don't have a word for that. All of that stuff, le microwave and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like all of these, modern conveniences. A lot of the time, the brakes were pumped there. It's just like, well, we're just gonna kind of funny pronounce the English word for that.
Yeah. And
then that'll be that. And in fact, there's probably a perfectly good French word that can go right in there.
Yeah.
And it's fine. And that used to be the case. Like a hummingbird in Louisiana French is a souffleur, which means a flower sucker.
Huh,
and I can't even right now remember the classroom standard French word but it's not a flower sucker, it's something else. But
not a flower sucker.
And
great band name, by the way.
Not a flower sucker. Yeah. So and on and on and on, because there was just a need to have a word for it, and there wasn't necessarily this like kind of fall back on the English mentality. And that crept in, and that's fine. That'll happen. And everywhere you go where there's like English and French touching, there's going to be a Franglish or a English and Spanish touching.
Yeah.
There's going to be what is the Spanish one? Spanglish. Yeah. You know. So anyway, that said, one fun thing now is to figure out how to say all this stuff with the internet, how to say technology words, but in French, and keep it going, where you still have the local vernacular in that same sentence, you know, in that same context. And so that's the real fun challenge of now. We have an opportunity to reinvent this language in a sense where we keep all of these fun old grammars and all of these fun, all of the down-home-isms, but still be able to talk about download and sign on, and you know, and or whatever, and all of these. It doesn't
have to be a dead language like Latin. It can still grow.
Yeah,
it's still living and breathing while people are still actively speaking it.
Precisely. And this is what we've done with English. We haven't decided that we have to only speak the English of the 1700s or whatever.
No.
We've decidedly always thrown new stuff into it. And so we can do that with French, and we can do that with the French of here. And we don't have to say, oh, no, Shah, that's not my French. You know, we don't have to do that. Like, we can actually be like, hey, you don't have to lose the old stuff.
No.
Like, you can have that, and let's bring in new stuff.
Absolutely. I'm sure you know who Bruce Daguerpon is.
Yeah.
Phenomenal musician and
Bruce.
speaks phenomenal French as well.
Yeah.
When he goes to France, he had told me the story. I asked him kind of the same question. And he said, well, the best they can explain it to me is when I speak to them, they understand what I'm saying and I understand what they're saying, but it's almost as if I'm speaking French from 200 years ago. If I was speaking to someone that was speaking English 200 years ago, I would probably have a lot of difficulty keeping up with the conversation. Read some old writings, like read some of that stuff, like when people are writing poetry from a few hundred years ago, it's damn difficult to follow, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, like Bruce is a great example. You know, he speaks like an awesome French from Ville Platte, and he's got like just he can really, he's able to make brand new music with this language,
and sounding just traditional Cajun music that was written this past year.
Yeah, exactly. You know? And so he's created like a whole body of work to be like, hey, we're still doing this. We can still do this. So love what Bruce is doing. And yeah, you will have that reaction. So one thing I've heard is, oh, you talk like a pirate. And the other thing that they say always, because this is just pop culture, is, oh, mais tu parles comme Zachary. Like you talk like Zachary. And when they say Zachary, they mean Zachary Richard, who is like the most famous Louisiana French export that we have.
Yeah.
You know, Zachary Richard from the Lafayette area will say Scott, maybe, or was he born in Eunice? I should know this, but I don't. But either way, he is, you know, a great example of, again, someone who has soldiered on and formed a whole new thing with the language. And I guess is not ashamed of it in the same way that Bruce is, like, not ashamed of it, wanting to add to the story, wanting to say there's more and there's more and there's more. Like we can keep telling. You know, it doesn't have to be frozen. We don't have to only play traditional songs. We can write new stuff always. And so those are two like inspirations for that reason. You know.
So you guys obviously, as Sweet Crude, absolutely have played in front of French Canadian audiences and audiences in France.
Yeah.
What kind of reception do you guys get during the performances? Are they thrilled that Americans are even attempting something like that, even if they're like, oh, look at the wacky way those kids are singing?
Yeah.
You know?
It was hard to gauge in Europe, although there was definitely a reception of curiosity, I guess.
Let me cut you off as far as a French audience. I was in France once.
Okay.
And I went and saw a concert, and the concert I saw was Neil Young. It was phenomenal. Crushed it. Strangest concert I've ever been to. Just the audience was dead silent during the performance. Dead silent. Like, it's the sort of thing where, and there was like an orchestra pit where people were standing. There weren't, you know, that was the standing right in front of the stage. They're all staring. No one's swaying or singing along, really. I mean, they're singing along with the songs they know a little bit, but there's no movement. Everyone is absolutely still. After the song, good applause, and then silence. Like, I mean, is that a strange thing to see? And
Not at
it's kind
all.
of hard to tell if they're enjoying it for real or if they're just being polite.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a different reverence for live music in Europe, at least from what we discovered. Yeah, definitely a curiosity. You definitely don't know if you're doing a good job until after the song is over. And then you get to speak to people afterward who, if they are like have a certain amount of like cultural awareness or like an interest in the French diaspora throughout the world, they might be like, wow, you know, it's cool what you're doing. But, you know, no overwhelming, like, kind of like, I can't believe they're speaking this weird old French. It was like like a few of those, like, oh, it's so cool, you know, like, and then some that it's like, oh, that's cute. And then just plain old, you know, which is fine. That's the world for you. And then, but I feel like in French-speaking Canada, it's way more overwhelmingly like, what you're doing is so important. Do not stop what you're doing. Just keep doing it.
They're fighting that fight in Canada.
So it's like right on the tip of their tongue.
Yeah.
They're like so militant about it, and they're like, whatever we will support you. You know, like, let's do this. We are cousins. You know, like so that tie, that link that we have with maritime Canada, especially those who have Acadian ancestry. Even if we don't claim it, it's still obviously there's a giant Louisiana and Acadian connection, no matter how you cut it up.
Yes,
and it's very much alive that they see what's happening here, and they want to do everything they can to support anybody like us who is. Feels like we can do something to stop the erosion of a culture, the disappearance of it, and we think that the way forward with that is not to attempt very carefully to preserve this precious little snowball that's melting, but rather, no, we're just going to build new things out in front of the erosion so that there's just so much stuff that it has its own life in it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we're way more thinking about like what's ahead, what's new, and we can carry on our backs like the lessons of the past and just keep building a new bridge out into the water, and it just like and it goes and goes and goes, and that's kind of where we're at with it, and they figured that out already.
I mean, again, they fought that fight in Canada.
Yeah.
Like there's a French Canada where it's very much French and English. Like it is French first, then English. Everyone speaks both, mostly for the most part.
They figured out we got to make our own Netflix shows. We got to make our own forms of, our own. We have to have another word for everything. In other words, you know, we have to have signs in both languages.
Yes.
We got to do all of these things where we're not just gonna let it evaporate. And so it's a very important lesson. And so, yeah, they have their own French TV stations and French radio and all this stuff. And this is the stuff that we're learning, like, oh, yeah. Like, it's fun, important, emotional to have the past and to look at the past. And I guess, like, there's, like, all of this nostalgia wrapped up in it and all that stuff, and that's fine, and that has a place, and that place is and we have museums dedicated to that. We have ways to look at that, and we think it's important to say, and then there's this, and we don't have to always recycle. We can recycle, we can also do, and so we love both in the sense, like, we can't claim, like, we can't stake a claim for French without pointing to the past.
Absolutely.
You know, and so we have to raise it up and look at it for what it was and what it is, and then be like, and that's why we saw what happened, and that's why we have this whole amazing foundation that we can still build from. And it belongs here, you know, in a sense. With all due respect to everything problematic that happened in history with it, it's like, we can have this has a space here. And so how can we build new things with it? Anyway, I don't disagree at all. This topic is what's going to keep us here for
No, I was going to say, not
long.
to make this whole thing about French, I have another thing to add. Again, not to make this whole interview about
let's keep
speaking
trucking.
French in Louisiana. Tell me a little bit about Les Nouvelles-Orléans.
Yeah.
Orléans.
Les
I'm sorry, I can't even speak French right now.
Nouvelles-Orléans.
I totally empathize with the French thing. Like, I'm totally going to start a Yiddish band that's half English, half Yiddish. We'll call it. It'll be like an emo band. We'll be Elaine Weinstein there for the couple of Jews who might know something in Yiddish. That means alone as a stone.
Okay.
Sorry, that's stupid. Nick, you can cut that part out. Tell me a little bit about your news program.
Okay.
What is it called?
Les Nouvelles-Orléans. It's a little joke. Les Nouvelles is the news, and La Nouvelle-Orléans is the city we live in.
But it's short news program. You can find it. I found it on YouTube, and I love the intro. And I'm gonna go ahead. Tanner, cut to the 2-shot real quick. Go ahead and play the intro right above our heads, Nick. Sam will give you permission for the licensing on that one.
Comment ça se passe? Attraper une tasse, rester un petit peu long.
That's a thumbs up.
All right, he can cut that part in. Tell me a little bit about the news program.
Yeah, again, this is just an experiment to see if we can find a fun way to be like, okay, first of all, we don't have anything like this. We don't have like TV style news in French here.
Not to cut you off, but your hurricane coverage is phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's got to be up to the minute. We got to try to make it current as possible. There is some turnover time. We try to edit it, make it look nice and fun. But that's the thing. Yeah, we noticed the very distinct lack of this one specific thing, which is very much a staple of a place. It's like when the Welsh were fighting for Welsh to stay in Wales because it was going to zero. You got to have the news in Welsh.
Yeah,
It's like kind of like it legitimizes a thing.
I think so.
It's sort of, another thing is a Wikipedia. People are like, got to be if there's a Wikipedia in your language. You're there. You have something. It's just like little metrics. Okay, so we want to do this news thing. Les Nouvelles-Orléans. It's a fun, short news program where in all our Louisiana vernacular, I tell the news of what's going on. Usually just a few little news stories, and sometimes a little weather update where we talk about what's going on. Pretty much either it's hot or there's a hurricane. Those are the two weathers in New Orleans, and so. It's been so much fun, and like I said, that it's like a Wild West because there's nothing like it that we can point to and be like, oh yeah, other than just like other news, I guess. And so it's funny because like the news is like there's a certain way that you talk, when you're, and so it's fun to be like using down home kitchen Louisiana French and speaking like that.
Yes.
We're having fun with that.
I think it's phenomenal. Again, luckily there's subtitles on most of them, so you can actually, if you don't speak Louisiana French, you know what the hell you're talking about. And also just the transfer of saying like in French, and then you get to someone's name, and then it's just like you're saying blah blah blah. The governor, John Bell Edwards. It's almost like you stone face for the names just to be like. English name.
Yeah, precisely. That's another fun lesson is like, do you French pronounce the name or do you English pronounce the name? Because you would say it like they would say it, right? I don't know. A lot of people's names around here have names like Charbonnet or Cantrell. Cantrell, you could say it in French and it would be like a French name and it would sound right.
Yeah.
And like a lot of our politicians and public figures have French names. And so I think probably I'm going to say those in French, and I have fun like saying the neighborhood names, Le Faubourg Marigny. I mean, of course, I don't say it like a Frenchman like that with a baguette, but it's like you say it. You can say it you could say the French places in French, including the city we live in, the state we live in, the lakes around us, all of the other neighboring parishes and towns that have French names. I like to say those are the French, French twist.
You absolutely should.
So
yes.
But. John Bell Edwards gets the, gets the stone, and a lot of those things are fun to bounce back between the English and French when we have to, because that's how it is.
That's phenomenal. All right, we'll take a break from French and get back to it.
Yeah.
When we start talking more about Sweet Crude, but I want to jump back to Glasgow. I think I might be mispronouncing that. Is it Glasgow?
Right. It has we had an exclamation point era in that band.
Yeah.
And I think for a while we didn't have one, and then we did, and then I think we went back to not having one, so it became subtle again. I can't remember.
Well, it's funny. It's a band that I had forgotten when I was doing some research to do this interview. I remembered. Oh hell, I forgot about Glasgow. I absolutely saw you guys at might have been Mermaid Lounge before Katrina.
Love
Tell
that
me
place.
about it. Did you start that while you were in high school?
Oh yeah, we started that while at Ben Franklin High School and NOCCA. Yeah, that was like a progressive rock band.
Well,
with
it was good, and I think it goes back to something, at least aside from New Leviathan Oriental Foxtrot Orchestra. It goes to show, at least when you're doing something on your own, how unique of a sound that you tend to create when you're coming up with your own music. When you are writing your music, it's not like you're like, oh, you know what, I kind of like these guys, I want to sound a little bit like them, maybe I'll start writing in the style of them. It's almost as if like, okay, what has no one else done? Let's try and do something like that.
Yeah, definitely. There is, and there was for that band especially, a real allergy to sounding like something else. Like when something would sound a little too derivative, it was like, okay, we can't do that. However, we would sometimes very intentionally quote something.
Okay.
And I love that. I love very intentionally, like, stop the show and just sort of launch into like a little moment of like another artist's music, like a tribute, like kind of like a little moment of like 10 seconds of a cover, and then you go right back in.
Okay.
And that's like that idea of a quotation became something that we would do in Glasgow occasionally.
Okay.
And then Glasgow was fun because we got to do like occasionally make a reference to something like the new Leviathan Oriental Foxtrot Orchestra music. That was pretty much just an inside joke between me and Jack.
Just say no one at the Glasgow
no
show
one would know
probably follows New Leviathan
and
Oriental
so it was
Foxtrot
awesome. So we got to actually quote something or do something, and it wove into what we were doing and didn't really sound like we were quoting something. And so we got to actually borrow from bits and pieces from this and that, and it just kept it fresh.
Yeah.
Because like we're quoting music from like the 1910s, and so it doesn't at all, but that's like the traditional music jazz of New Orleans, so it kind of
Absolutely.
it kind of was able to bring us home in a way whenever things were getting like, it grounded us. We could go back to that. So if anything, we would rely on that music, and then otherwise, yeah, we're like classical nerds basically playing rock music, which is
but nothing is sacred in rock and roll, man. So you just kind of go for it.
That's right. And so we kind of like that idea of like classical and rock has a funny life in pop music with like Electric Light Orchestra, I guess, and like. We were into like Mahavishnu Orchestra, which is like really weird jazz fusion, featuring the violin, and some of that, and like bands like Talking Heads, kind of like just a smattering of nerd music, and all of that went into our band, and that's why it sounds like classical nerd music. Prog rock.
What ultimately do you think led to that band's ending? I'm not saying like, man, you got to do the reunion show. Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
I'm saying like the natural course of time. What ultimately was it?
I think that we went through a series of lineup changes. I think we wanted to do something fresh that was like, we had started working on this like really ambitious rock opera, which we were very excited about, and we kind of got some momentum in that. And then, I think a rock opera is something you do after you're already really famous.
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. You're right. You're totally right. But it did kind of reach the point where it's like, either we've chased this thing down all the way, and we did to a certain degree. Like we chased it down 20%. Either we chase this thing down all the way and we give up everything that we're doing and just focus on this, like life goals, like everything goes into this, or we put a pin in it for now, and we reformulate this whole thing where our band has like some, like, I think it became urgent suddenly that we do something that was like had real heartfelt like resonance, and having this thing that had this like cultural tie became very important all of a sudden. I can't pinpoint the moment.
Okay.
But it was kind of like, let's do music that's not all about like robots and aliens and like dinosaurs and let's make something that's very relevant, that feels like emotions. That sounds really silly.
Well, it's strange because you were actually getting some good attention as Glasgow. It's not like you guys had this annoying band that was just, man, I wish these guys would go away. People were actually interested. Tell me a little bit about that.
We were insatiable creatively. Like as soon as something was done, we were like, next thing, let's work on a new thing. Let's work on a new thing. And that new thing just became a different band.
Okay.
And so Sweet Crude had 4 members of Glasgow in it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, so I guess Sweet Crude was just a sequel to Glasgow because we were just constantly like, okay, new thing. Always insatiable creatively, like, and so, yeah, so Glasgow we stopped when we still had plenty going for us, and it could still exist if not for, we were just like, let's take this in another direction.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I guess it was during Glasgow is that when you met Alexis?
Yeah.
Alexis Marceau?
Yeah.
Let me cut you, before you start to respond to that, I want to make just one statement. Rarely, I think, does it seem as if, and I might be overstating this, I don't know y'all's personal friendship as far as when you met and the whole gamut of where you are now as friends and everything else, but it seems not crazy, that's not even the right word. Rarely do you find 2 people that seemingly were almost born to make music together.
Aw.
I don't mean to sound cheesy about that, but holy hell, like, you guys just make beautiful music together.
Thanks,
with
man.
everything that you've done. With it, Alexis and the Samurai, which I want you to talk about, and Sweet Crude, like, you can hold your own as a duo, playing multiple instruments, just the 2 of you standing right next to each other, or with a whole orchestra of people also playing with you. Seemingly, there's always room, and it's always beautiful music. So tell me about how you met Alexis.
Yeah, it was kind of like she had just moved back to New Orleans after Katrina, so this was like in 2009-ish, and we were off seeing a band play at Blue Nile. And
what was the band? Sorry.
Big Rock Candy Mountain.
Big Rock Candy Mountain. I remember them.
Yeah. Awesome. Another amazing band of the early 2000s era. And yeah, we were in there. And I had heard her name from posters and stuff, from flyers and stuff like that.
She was playing solo stuff, right?
Yeah, she was just like Alexis Marceau. And then I was like, Yeah, a friend of ours introduced us. And I was like, you know what? This is random, but I got this band. We're kind of working on this rock opera thing, and it really needs a female voice. Would you be interested in doing some collaboration? She said, yeah. She's like, I'm actually looking for a violinist to play on my stuff, and I was like, that's what I do. So immediately we were in each other's bands. To make a short story long, she me playing with her became Alexis and the Samurai.
Yeah,
and she joined Glasgow. And then in a matter of about a year or so, or 2, Glasgow evolved into Sweet Crude. And
well, it was Alexis Marceau band, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.
She was the lead, and you were just part of the backing band.
Yeah, if you're keeping score at home, it was the Alexis Marceau band, and then it became Alexis Marceau and the Samurai.
Okay.
Because we wanted to go on the road, and the other cats in the band were like professional local musicians who play every night on Frenchman Street, and that's fine.
Stuck in the rut.
Yeah, exactly. So they're in that world, and we don't need to disrupt that by taking them on the road for $0.
It's hard to tell someone to stop making money to go on the road.
Yeah, precisely. And this is a beautiful city where you can make music and go nowhere. I mean, like in the sense of geographically.
Physically going nowhere.
You can stay in the same city, play music every night. It's awesome. Okay, and then so we decided to figure out how to make all that music as a duo.
Okay.
And then it was still kind of Alexis Marceau band, Alexis Marceau period. And then I think somewhere along the lines we happened on the Samurai, as you know, my name is Sam, and by the way, that band Glasgow had a song called Samurai.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we figured out how to make, and then we decided, let's just stay a duo. and it's more economical. It's portable, all this stuff. And then sure enough, it turned out we can, when I think about her voice, which is an incredible voice, I'm able to write music. And when she thinks of us playing together, she's able to write. In other words, it was just like a really fruitful collaboration. So we were able to write well together. And then, and then that translated well into Sweet Crude, because it was like, she's got that same French heritage. Like, she's got that going on. We can go hang out with her grandparents who are still alive and speak French, in their house.
It's a great resource, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, so it was like, that was a no-brainer. So that kind of all just happened by happy accident. And so that collaboration is awesome. It's like you said, it really is kind of weird how that worked out. Plenty of people think we're related or married or whatever, which is fun.
I guess you both wear glasses, whatever. When your hair was longer, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. So nope. But we just happened to work really well together creatively. So.
No, I mean you make beautiful music together. That's
Thanks.
about the long and the short of it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Sweet Crude, I guess. That's kind of an important thing in your life these days, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Sweet Crude, born in 2012, although we played our first show in 2013, and at the Circle Bar.
Was that your first gig?
Yep.
As Sweet Crude?
We didn't tell anybody. We just set up shop. This is a capacity 49 or something venue.
49's being generous. If you 49. Include the sidewalk outside 49, I think you can fit about 30 to 32 people inside.
Yeah. So Sweet Crude was half
it's
of
a great
that.
bar. I don't mean to talk trash about Circle Bar.
No, it's awesome.
Keep doing what you're doing, Circle Bar, if you can.
We chose it wisely because of that reason, that we could just set up shop, do a secret show, and basically be half the audience. And then from there, we hit the ground running. This kind of cultural and musical mission. A lot of drums, a lot of singing, and that it would be bilingual, French and English. Specifically, we were singing in Louisiana French, very militant about that. If it wasn't like local, if it wasn't the hip local slang or whatever, it didn't go. And now we've loosened that slack a little bit, and we're just like, no, it's just French, y'all. Like it.
Like
we
you
were
said
part
earlier,
of the problem.
The language needs to grow also.
Yeah.
Even musically, the language
exactly.
can grow.
And so we were evolving with that mentality. I think probably when we started, we were saying like Cajun French. We were part of that old way of thinking, and we were like, actually, if we're gonna do this and make this viable and make people look on it like take it seriously kind of thing, we have to be flexible. And when we come across, something new, fresh, hip, a new way of doing things, like we have to be adaptable to that. As culture changes, when things like in a rap song, you'll hear like them say things like hashtag this, text that, notification, blah blah blah, and like it's like very now.
Yeah.
And like, but
it's
for
dating itself immediately.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's right now. Can we bring that level of currentness into our music? Can we say things like HD in French? Can we say things like, can we talk about like issues of now? Can we talk about transgender? Can we talk about hashtag Me Too? Can we say those things in the context of a Louisiana French song? And so it's like all of that stuff requires an immense amount of flexibility, willingness, not the sense that, if this word was invented after 1950, we have to use the English word.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, that's a massive tangent back to French. But I think that
if we're talking about Sweet Crude, you can't not mention the French aspect.
Right. So that's part of our cultural mission, and musically, it was just like, let's make this thing like really bombastic, parade music. You could take it to the street theoretically, drums and vocals, potentially, theoretically anyway. At the beginning, it's like, you come off this floor, come onto the stage, grab a drum, and you're in the band. You can sing with us. We can go outside and it becomes a parade. We can march with this band, and we have gotten to, which is awesome. We can march with this thing if we need to. We're like, let's make this about here, not in a cheesy way, which is a fine line to walk.
No, I don't think anyone would ever construe it as cheesy. You guys are able to go back and forth between English and French in the same song, in the same line even, where it's seamless and just so naturalistic.
No, thank you.
I don't know how to. I'm not just trying to compliment you, man. I'm just stating my objective. But you're welcome.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: as far as you got this rock and roll band, I guess you can call it rock and roll band, Sweet Crude. No guitars. What gives?
Yeah.
Who has a rock band without a guitar? Who do you think you are?
Exactly. I guess that move was all about the fact that I guess thinking about guitars was like kind of puts it in a zone or a place, or we were just like. I think the mentality was like the guitar might be limiting the expressive ideas that we were coming up with.
Okay.
A guitar you can do an infinite amount of music with. It's not that. It was more just like we have all come from guitar bands. Yeah. Let's just start from scratch kind of thing.
Well, you guys are, I guess, I would consider everyone in the band a percussionist as well. Tell me a little bit about it. Was there a decision or was it natural? And it's like, this is helping our rhythm as a band if we all have a little aspect of percussion. I mean, literally, literally or metaphorically, a percussionist band.
Yeah, that idea was to create a real visceral experience on the stage that would hopefully translate into the audience, that like the creating a sense of like Dolby 5.1 drums, just like it's
so
you're
everyone in the audience becomes part of the band just by clapping along.
Yeah, that was the idea. Visceral percussion experience, and we do that like strength in numbers kind of thing. That was really the inspiration there. And again, very influenced by the parade music that we have in this city, the music of the second line, the music of the marching band. Without really making much music that sounds like that, but influenced by that intensity, the feeling you get in your chest when the bass drum walks by. It's amazing. So we wanted to have a little dose of that.
Well, I think it's absolutely obvious, especially with a couple of songs, and one in particular, which only by doing some reading did I find out was not an original song by you. I guess it was by the Balfa Brothers, Parlez Nous à Bois. Like that's the first time I heard that song was you guys playing it, and just by watching, I just wanted to watch another live video of you guys playing it, and I saw another listing on YouTube or something like that. I'm like, oh, what the hell is this? And I listened to it, and it's traditional Cajun song. Like, it is straight two-stepping and waltzing, whatever, like basic Cajun song that has been part of the Cajun vernacular for decades and decades. Are there other songs that you guys are doing that just under the radar are not your songs?
That's really the main one that, and we want. That was another experiment where, from the very beginning, we were just
the drums. I'm sorry to cut you off. The drums, just like you said, you can feel. I don't even know if it's necessarily specific to New Orleans drumming, but just the pounding of the drums in that song is what sets the tone for it. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that drum thing was like that, and I don't know if we recorded it like this, but when we performed it in those early days, it was all about, let's just get this boom, 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 and not much more than that in the singing. So it was like right there, the skeletal thing that we wanted to accomplish, which was like vocals and drums. So that's absolutely by design, that was that way. And I think that that's the only song really that we it's a regular part of our repertoire that is a traditional song that we decided to like update. I think it's probably
you modernized it.
Modernized it, yeah. And I think it's on our radar to potentially do that more. It hasn't really happened yet, except for we do play kind of as an encore, a special moment. We will play another traditional song called Les Bars de la Prison, Prison Bars, which it's thought of as a Creole fiddle tune, meaning a black fiddle song that Canray Fontenot and a bunch of other famous black Louisiana fiddlers sort of wrote by committee over generations that has come to now. And we do our own version of it that is also very I don't know, it's weird and psychedelic and strange, but we pretty much, that's it, and it's on our radar potentially to do that more, but it's something that we do, and we like to think that we took Parlez Nous à Bois, which is, Balfour Brothers, that's like the quintessential version of it. And then it goes back further than that, and there have been awesome versions of it since. And,
yeah, there's multiple versions of that song out there.
And so we like to think that we just we have our version of it, and they're all very different.
It's the best one. Sorry.
I just go, oh, thanks.
It's the most pleasing to listen to for a modern ear, maybe, I guess.
Probably, maybe, I don't know. But I know that going back, that I was pleased to find that song in an old book of from the 20s of a woman had hand wrote songs that she had remembered from her youth and that she kind of did some research on. And I found that it's got all the words are there, but man, the melody sounds nothing like it. It's like so kind of corny and kind of like I think it was probably a polka. It's like from the it was like a version of the song from maybe the 1800s. So it's got a more of a European dance vibe to it, and then of course the Balfour Brothers made it straight up Cajun dance hall music, and then we made it kind of like a spooky hip hop thing. So yeah, everything travels through time, and that's how it's always been. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a song like that though, just to almost not entirely, but for the most part, reinvent a classic traditional song from a place, from an era. It's not easy to do, and most people would do it poorly, and you guys crushed it.
Thanks. I think that's probably why we haven't really done it again. It's because that's good. We did that one thing, and that's.
We'll talk to Bruce. I'm sure he's got some traditional tunes that you guys can collaborate on.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, considering how much Louisiana French and Cajun music you guys are inspired by, have you ever considered adding the accordion to the band?
We've had the guest appearances of people like Sun Pie, that have come up on stage with us, and that has been really awesome. And probably
it's got keys. You said anything with keys.
That's
you could
right.
Probably
You're
handle,
not wrong.
So.
And I would and we've kind of we do have violins, so we do have one of the traditional instruments up there, and I'm not sure why we seem to pump the brakes with the triangle, the rub board, any of the obvious symbols of that music. And I think that is just probably us just trying to be like not get lumped in, which is that doesn't mean that we don't have a reverence.
Just because it's Cajun inspired or Louisiana French inspired doesn't have to be just two steps and waltzes, which is almost the standard for those.
And I love when bands like Feu Follet take those instruments and write new music with it, and it really sounds at home with music that's not Cajun music.
I mean, Feu Follet, Lost Bayou Ramblers is a rock and roll band, man.
Straight up psych rock, some Black Sabbath moments in their music. It's weird. They use electronic elements as well. So it's definitely possible, and it would be, I think, for us to do it, it would be like a definite statement, moment, a nod. It would be like an homage, basically, if we were to do it, based on what we've done so far. So definitely not out of the question. Our minds are open at this point, for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, we're all trying to reinvent ourselves.
In fact, I'll tell you this, is like, if you might have snooped around on YouTube, we're starting to record traditional Cajun fiddle. By we, I mean me on fiddle and our bandmate Skylar behind the camera, to just have something else that's there that we can put out. Because I would like to be, I'm a little bit of a greenhorn in that world. Like, I'm a little bit of an outsider looking in, and as a way of learning something, it's like, let's record some video. It's like, I can play the music, and I think as we go, I will become more immersed in it.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, if you want to learn something, you teach it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm just going to force myself to make videos playing this music. And then, it's probably going to sound a little square at first. And we've recorded some already and put them out, and we're going to record some more. But what the beautiful thing that's going to come out of that is like a huge re-education. And I look forward to that so much. And I am enjoying it a lot.
Absolutely.
Diving in. And it's part of having all this time is taking this instrument and this music that I claim to be a chapter in the book of, and be like, I should know this stuff. You know, I should know this music on the violin if I'm going to talk about it and have something to spring off of. And plus, it's like all these Cajun jams, I can hang, but I can't really like take the lead, like, you know. And so it's like I want to be able to like take part in that. You know, it feels like I feel like when the last time they had a Black Pot back in October, I guess.
What's a Black Pot?
Black Pot Music Festival in Lafayette is like just this amazing spiritual experience. It's like it's a weekend or 3 or 4 days, whatever, of just Cajun dancing and camping. It's a camping festival.
Okay. All right.
Beautiful, amazing, and the name Black Pot comes because it's also a cooking festival, and just like people camp out with their giant cauldrons and make gumbo and sauce piquant and jambalayas and various etouffees and stuff like that, and you're just eating the whole time. And I think
perfect for me. I can't believe I've never heard of this. Yeah.
Black Pot, dude, it's amazing, and it's people think of it as a well-kept secret. It's honestly not that well-kept anymore, but you know, going to this last one that I went to was so amazing, and it was my goal, and I brought my violin just to sit in on some jams, because the jams break out at the little campsites. They break out among the musicians that are playing
on the big Acura stage or whatever.
No, but a lot of the musicians that are playing the main stage, will come to the jam, and it's just like it's an exchange. It's a cultural exchange. It's just like an amazing thing. You can just I was able to just speak French the whole time, you know, just because like all the people are there, and all of the people that just love that are just diehards are there, and it's just so many young people that speak French, that know all the dance moves, that love the music, and it's just like. There is the Cajun and the Festivals Acadiens et Créoles.
Yeah, that one's very popular.
Very popular, and it has a slightly older demographic. This is more of your Bonnaroo, burner type audience.
Weird Louisiana French Bonnaroo.
Weird Louisiana French Bonnaroo, where everyone knows what's up.
Wow.
They know how to two-step and waltz and jitterbug and all that stuff. And they're young, and they're in costume because it's like Halloween time, so everyone's like bringing that vibe.
How have I not heard of this
probably staying up all night around the campfire doing all kinds of things. I don't know, but it's really special, and that kind of lit a fire, I think, too. I was just like, I really enjoyed this jam session, and I know these songs, but I'm not going to go up there and wail because I don't yet feel that comfortable. I'm more interested in lyrics and singing. But I want to complete the cycle and feel like I know what I'm doing on the fiddle in the traditional sense. So that's where I'm at now with that. Wow. So yeah, you stepped on something when you said about the accordion, because I am feeling that itch now, so to speak.
Well, that's phenomenal. I hope you follow through with that.
Thanks.
You mentioned, you know, like you said, learn by doing, just by filming yourself or whatever else.
Yeah.
Filming videos, rather, music videos. There are a few like official videos of Sweet Crude songs that are holy hell. Like they're phenomenal. And I did see one interview, I guess, that definitely for what was it? Must have been Montesprit. Is one of, if you haven't seen it, Monesprit. Look that up. Watch that video. It was filmed, I guess, at the Marigny Opera House.
That's right.
And it is one of those things that you watch it, you listen to it, and you legitimately feel it. Like it's so rare these days that you can truly feel a video or feel a song, and that's one of those. And from what I understand, that was mostly Alexis's doing. So maybe this is a topic better suited for her. But you have other ones as well that I think are so poignant, and so many people are just skipping over the idea of a music video. It's not like you're hoping, fingers crossed, we get this on MTV later or anything.
No,
it's very much putting it out there, out of your own pocket or whatever, for the fans.
Right.
Do you guys have plans to do that? And tell me a little bit about how you guys make music videos.
Yeah. So that's interesting. The music video economy is so different. And in thinking about that, it's still very necessary, because it's just like such a great way to experience music is through a really
I mean, you're adding more
video.
artistic expression to the song, you know?
Yeah, and so it's something we want to do, we have to do, we feel the intense urge to do it, and then, you know, a record label will tell you gotta have videos, and if they're a very nice record label, they will give you money to do the video.
Well, is that inspired, since you guys are signed with the Verve now? Is that right?
Yeah. So one of the beauties of that signing was a budget.
Excellent.
Excellent. And we have so far done a few music videos on that budget, one of which we just finished, and we're very, very pumped about.
Earlier this year, you guys did Porcupine, if I'm not mistaken,
yep.
which is also one of those where I don't know if it's difficult or easy to sit through. Like, it's one of those that kind of brings you through a lot of emotions while you're watching it.
Yeah, and that song is like uncomfortable, and that video is uncomfortable.
The video is what makes the song uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure. And that song is a little bit about that discomfort that you might feel. But anyway, we kind of like struck a deal with the local film organization, kind of music video. They like their specialty music videos, as far as I know.
Okay.
They're called Fat Happy Media, and they rule. And we've had just really good chemistry with them. So they didn't do Mon Esprit, although there was probably personnel overlap with that project and this. But anyway, so I don't want to say that they weren't involved, because they might have been. Anyway, but anyway,
they're swell people. We like them.
yeah,
Don't worry.
And like, it's like musicians. I guess film in New Orleans is like musicians, where everyone collaborates and plays in each other's bands, and it's a lot of
the Hank Staples quote that I'll never stop saying. There's only one band in New Orleans, but it has 3,000 members.
Yeah,
so
that is a really good way to say it. So, and I probably in a lot of creative realms are like that. A lot of overlap, and so anyway, yeah, it's so important to what we do to make videos. You throw them out there, hope for the best. You also can put some promotion behind it in terms of like getting a publicist to get it on websites like Rolling Stone or like Spin or something like that, if you're really lucky. And we've had some luck with that, with getting our video at least premiered on one of those sites.
Okay.
Where at least right at the beginning it has like a pop of visibility, and that helps. And then you just don't know what's going to become viral. You don't. And so something that you spent $0 on might become extremely popular, and a thing you put all of this money and time into might not do well. And so that's the gamble of now, which is fine. We signed up for this.
They're mostly, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, are videos like that almost exclusively a promotional tool?
Yeah, I'd say so. And I'd say that probably in the olden day, or like in the days of like the Beatles, they would make a music video that would just be a sometimes you might see it promotional tool thing. And probably that's how music videos were born, and then they just became their own life. Like, the video became its own art form. And probably now, the music video is a business card again, in the sense that, like, when we want to show you what we're about, the first thing we're going to do is show you our music video. And then it isn't necessarily like, the music video is this icing on the cake of the album or something like that. But instead, it's kind of like, if we can help it, it's kind of our first step. It's kind of where like the first foot forward. It's like, attract new people in via the music video. That's probably the best way in. And that's the blessing and curse of like a YouTube type format, where it's like so many things out there is anybody can make a video, is that it does potentially have the access to billions of people immediately, or 0 people immediately. So either way, we do it. We have to do it. At the end of the day, we want to do it because like, we want to leave behind something where we just like, I
mean, it's adding to your art.
Yeah, precisely.
Especially if you have control over what it's going to be. It's not like some jerk from LA or New York is going to come in and be like, this is the music video you're shooting.
That's a good point. That
would not be what you want.
That's a good point. And I guess in the like the 1990s version of like this band, it could have been that a major label like Verve and the Universal Music Group enterprise could have said, it's our money, here's who we're pairing you with for your video, make for, now kiss, I guess it could have happened like that, but no, it was just like, you find the people, you think of the video, you do it, it's fine.
Well, back then the video was almost more important than the song, in that the video came out well before the album did. They were using the video to hype it up, and they would get whoever to produce this video and have some weird shtick about it or something like that.
Yeah.
And back then also, music videos were being played on regular cable television as well. It wasn't reality shows on MTV and VH1. It was, it was music videos.
Yeah, so when there was a real economy for music videos, there was probably a big pressure to have.
They took more control. The big money record companies were taking control. They weren't leaving it in the new up and comers from Louisiana to like, hey, whatever you want. No.
Yeah, it's you're right, and I think that we're very grateful in that way that the Wild West music video world of now is something where it's just like, in as much as we don't know what's going to become viral, they don't know what's going to become viral, and so we might as well make a cool video that we like.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's the artist expression. Yeah,
and I think that's when we signed on with them, that was the whole thing. It's like, yeah, you're a bilingual, can't describe you pop project from Louisiana. There's nothing else like this on our roster, which is probably why they signed us, because there wasn't another thing like it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things that I love about you guys the most, is that there's no one else like you.
Well, I think that's luckily that was the gamble that they wanted to take. Versus there's nothing else like you, so we don't know how to market this.
Yeah, that's
which is totally viable. Which is could have been another response to that. So that's awesome. That worked out. Yeah, the music video is so important to us, and we're very happy to be working with Fat Happy on these videos, man. It's I just before this saw like a first rough cut of a new video that we're about to put out.
When's it coming out? I don't know when this video is going to play, so no one knows when this interview is.
Well then,
it could be months from now.
Yeah, and
today is August 28th for those in case Nick didn't put it at the beginning of the video. But
and so this our new video is supposed to come out sometime in September.
Okay.
So it might already be. You might already be able. It might already be
out
huge.
There.
It might already be. It might be. Ubiquitous. You might be impossible to avoid our brand new video.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam's already on his own 747 right now.
Yeah. Man, one thing I don't think do they still have the planes with the two, with the upstairs?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not on them, but yes, I think those exist. Yeah.
Yeah. So one day I'll be in my
upper deck of one of those.
I'll be in the penthouse of my plane. In a hot tub. So I'll say this, that
you're shooting for September for the new video.
September. Very pumped about it. Doesn't matter if it's what happens to it. We're psyched about it.
Yeah, I mean that's more important. If you guys aren't happy with it, then it kind of any success would be kind of like, meh. I guess we're glad we did that.
Completely, and we get a chance all the time to weigh the option of, would we rather be instantly successful based on formulas that we know exist, which aren't proven. They just seem to work for some people.
Yeah.
We could follow a formula, and we have enough talent amongst us that we could make that work probably. Or we could just try to do something more original and have less immediate universal appeal. And we seem to just we do weigh it.
Yeah.
It's not like we just say, oh no, we'll never do that. We do entertain it, and then we just go, no, but let's do something that we can go to sleep at night, feel good about, and not feel like we're lying or something.
Well, I think something correct me if I'm wrong, something that might owe a little bit to that attitude that you have towards your own art would be who you work with. And when I say that, I mean, since you guys have become Sweet Crude and started, making moves beyond the Circle Bar, working with guys like Reed, taking on legitimate management that knew you personally and believed in you. Tell me a little bit about kind of making that step from, we're doing this on our own, till, hey, we need some professional help. Here's a guy that we can trust.
I didn't say professional help. We all need a little professional help.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
All of it. That's a manager's job, a psychiatrist as well.
That's right. So when we first started playing, we're obviously self-managed, which is what you do when you first start out. And then when Reed came knocking, it was like, okay, this is awesome. Well, it was like, we need to get a manager.
And he was still, fresh. I think he was still tour managing for the Soul Rebels.
Yeah,
right?
and so we needed to kind of shop around, I guess. But, they came at us with business plan, baby. And so the fact that we were able to see it on paper was a real, it helped. It helped a lot. And then right here, they're here. Went to Loyola.
Yeah, I mean, a locally managed, there's for anyone who doesn't realize this, There's not a whole lot of local music management companies in New Orleans.
No.
There's very few.
For all the music, there's no record label. That's not true. There are record labels.
That's not true. Yeah.
But it feels like it should be this mecca of record labels.
Why is a music town shopping out its administrative help all over the country?
It's weird that since the time of Louis Armstrong, who found management in New York, or went to New York, that has been the case where it's just like, oh, you want your business to get done, New York, LA, Chicago, whatever. But even though we breed musicians, the business support has not historically been strong.
No.
And so what we have found with Reed and with Mid-Citizen, the management company.
Sorry, I don't know if I said that. Mid-Citizen,
we just did. Is something that's like viable, feels official, strong, is getting a whole lot of pull because they have Big Frida, Tank and the Bangas, Boyfriend, Sweet Crude, on and on and on.
Alfred Banks. Big fan, lives in the neighborhood, I believe.
Yeah, Alfred Banks, Sax Kicks Ave, and on and on. And I think it's just like a real breath of fresh air. So that's awesome. And no disrespect to all of the other music industry people who are working in New Orleans who are thinking the same thing. This is the place.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We got to make this work.
Mid-Citizen is probably surprised that there's not more people like them.
Yeah. And I think they have a huge important role right now. So we were so that made us actually skeptical at first. Like we're just like, we have to find someone who's in Nashville, or we have to find someone in New York to manage us.
I mean, that's where all the big companies are. You know?
So that made sense to us. So it was like, do we really want to go with like a dude who's here? Is that a right move? That feels like, we're just being friendly, local friendly. No, we have big aspirations. And so, but when we were able to bury that and be like, no, actually, Reed's awesome, Mid-Citizen's awesome, then we were just like, hit the ground running, great relationship, it's awesome.
Before you were with Mid-Citizen, you had taken on a booking agent. Were you guys with High Road Touring before Mid-Citizen?
That is a good question, and I think Mid-Citizen came afterward.
Yeah, we work with a lot of High Road acts.
Other way around,
excuse me.
I'm sorry, I think I misspoke. I'll have to go back to the diary, but I'm fairly certain it was before they were called Mid-Citizen, but it was still Reed.
Simple Play.
Yeah. And then who I think connected us with High Road.
Okay.
I want to say that's what happened.
All right, yeah. I mean, I do not recall one way or another. Yeah. Obviously, it's your band, so I wouldn't know specifically.
It's awesome. We were so happy for that. And that really, having a really capable booking agent to knock down doors for us was it. That really changed things.
What kind of advice would you give to people that are starting a band? Do you think it's more important to hit the road or stay home and build your base?
I would say that the best thing you can possibly ever do is just try to record good music. Like if like right now you can't tour, and anything could happen that could make you not able to tour. You could have a baby, you could get sick, someone else could get sick, your baby could get sick, any of the things that could prevent you from hitting the road. You can't do anything without a good recording. It's very difficult, I should say. You could theoretically obtain a following from a stupendous live show. It is very hard to maintain that if you're not like keeping a very meticulous cycle. And even then, that will probably fade with not having a recording for people to take home. And then you're losing out on so much revenue. So,
it seems like there's a lot less revenue in recorded music these days.
Sure, potentially, yeah. I mean, you got to put out a lot more of it if you want to make money off of it. You got to be putting out a song a week, basically, or something crazy.
Yeah.
If you want to get down with what's the way music is distributed now, which is you think about it. If instead of an album every 18 months, you're putting out a single every couple weeks. It's not that different.
Well,
it's just
the world is moving a lot faster now.
Yeah. So don't wait. Just put it out and put it out and put it out. And maybe at the end of a period of time, you package them as something. I don't know. Anyway, I would definitely focus on recording first, as I look back on how we've done things.
Yeah.
And then because we had a lot of bands that we went through, as we listed earlier. Glasgow, Lexington the Samurai, the beginnings of Sweet Crude, other side projects that we've all been in. I was in a band called Antenna Inn. There have been, playing with Susan Cowsill, all of these other things that have brought us to now have taught a lot of lessons that have run the gamut from like, we got to just hit the road, who cares about if this recording is done or whatever.
Yeah.
And then to like, we just need to have a demo that we just give away. And then to like, man, we need to have like things that we can set. We need to get an agent, or whatever. And it's all an evolution, and it all feels like, oh, well, you just need to do everything.
Yeah.
You need to have an agent. You need to have management. You need to have a record label. You need to have good recording. You need to be good at songwriting. You need to be good at your instrument. You need to have good stage presence. And of course, it's great to have all of it.
Yeah.
But to kind of get to your question, I would say to focus on writing and recording a really decent product or whatever, something that that can easily, and it's because it's now very possible to distribute things far and wide. And now you just see it over and over and over again that someone is just discovered from SoundCloud, discovered from YouTube, somebody who was making music in their bedroom. Is now streaming a lot of music, and potentially at some point in the world will be able to tour that extensively. Children are making lots of money based on their SoundCloud demos.
Yeah, it's upsetting.
It can be upsetting, but that is not that weird to think about. That where you should start is having a really good recorded product first, and I think that. I don't know when that switch flipped, and I don't know why it was so important in my mind when we were first starting out that you need to have an amazing live show first and then figure out the recording later. And I don't think that that's like wrong, and I don't think you should definitely have an amazing live show. But now if I were to like do it all over again, and we did that, we got that chance with Sweet Crude, we hit the studio first. Before we ever had one rehearsal, we had a few songs recorded in a way that we were excited about.
I didn't know that.
Not necessarily to sell, but at least to show people, at least to show potential management, potential booking agents, potential people, venues, that hey, this is what we're gonna sound like, or like this is what the music sounds like recorded. And those very first demos are what we ended up releasing for our first EP. And that was very helpful because we had that business card, so to speak, of just like, when we wanted to add members to the band, when it was just me and Alexis, we could be like, hey, would you like to be in a band that sounds like this? And it'd be like, oh, I get it. When we say, hey, we got this indie pop synth drum and vocal Cajun English thing, that's very hard to sell, even if it sounds interesting. But we can easily go to a festival. Even we can talk to people who book festivals and be like, hey, you book a Cajun festival or a French festival, would you? And a lot of the time, they're booked from demos or videos or whatever. They're not necessarily looking at like how many do you draw. They're just like, no, you're an interesting project, we'd like to have that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not all festivals. Some festivals really need to know how many people you can put into a venue. But anyway, all that said, I'm glad you asked that question because I'm glad to have the excuse to think about it and say that a really good demo comes first.
Well, seemingly just because recording is an expense that most people, when they're starting out, they're in high school, right out of high school, right out of college, it's very much, a garage band type of thing, like rehearse at somebody's house. You're not saying that that's wrong or anything like that. Have good recorded music early so you can use that as a platform for your live show, I guess.
Yeah.
But the bands that are most memorable to me are the ones that are putting on something that I've never seen before.
Yeah, if you're a stinker live, it's not going to take you very far.
Yeah, don't bother recording.
Yeah, and it's going to really hurt your career. It's like, because the money is in live performances. So, you have to have a really good live show.
What markets outside of New Orleans did you guys first start seeing some kind of signs of success for Sweet Crude?
Lafayette.
Okay, well, there you go.
That was some validation. Then we kind of not long after that, we sold out a room in New York, which was interesting. And then we packed, I don't know if sold out a room in Chicago, which was very interesting.
Yeah.
And then, we noticed some momentum in the Midwest. We noticed some momentum on the East Coast. Then probably the next big market that we're like, this is awesome. International, baby, was when we went up into Acadie and we played in New Brunswick.
All right.
And Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia. And later on Quebec, and we noticed that because of the reasons we talked about before, that cultural connection, it kind of gave us a very built-in audience.
Yeah,
which was awesome.
I say you guys could just summer up there instead of hanging out down here.
Oh my goodness! Well, we had before this pandemic. That was our routine.
Okay.
This is the first summer we spent in New Orleans in a while, because we would make some regular trips up there, and thanks to our kind of our guardian angels up there who were kind of bringing us there and putting us on festivals and putting us in venues, they really believed in us and gave us a place to play. So those were kind of our first markets, and then later we brought it to the West Coast, and New Orleans casts a huge shadow. So you can be from here, and people from all over the world come to Jazz Fest and so, or French Quarter Fest and all that stuff. So like when you're in the periphery of festivals or you play venues like Tipitina's, a lot of people see it, and then you'll be just surprised because you'll be in someplace in Nebraska and then people are at your show because they saw you in New Orleans at some point.
Yes.
So that's been, I'd say, the biggest gift that we've had is being a New Orleans band, because we get to have a lot of eyes on us because of the festivals and stuff.
I mentioned earlier in the intro the Jagged Little Pill tribute. Who was the driving force behind giving that a try first? It wasn't here first. I think you guys did it at One Eyed Jacks before you did it here at Tipitina's. But for
Alexis.
the past 5-6 years, I assumed obviously she knows every song, every word, every note, everything from that whole album. It's a classic album. There's no doubting that. And it's one of the funnest shows we do here every year.
Oh, man.
Anyone who has not been, it's sold out the past couple times. We pack them in real tight for that. Jagged Little Pill, just an iconic album of 94, 95, something like that. So I guess that's more a question for her. You're just happy to be along for the ride?
Happy to be along for the ride.
All
just
right.
be like,
it's like, isn't this fun? Oh my God.
It's just it is really fun. Every time that we do that show, and I'm just, sideman, happy to be, it's an honor to be nominated. I'm just like, this music means a lot to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Screaming the words, and it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
So that's all Alexis.
Yeah, okay. I will, when I have her on the program, I will definitely ask her more about that.
You definitely should.
Tell me a little bit about things that you guys have been doing since March. You released that video early on, I think in March for Porcupine, but what kind of things are you guys doing to stay in touch with your audience?
We do a stream every Saturday and Wednesday. The Wednesday stream is a Patreon-only stream.
Patreon.
So that's another thing. We started a Patreon, which is something never thought we'd do, but that's the new way. And so we started a Patreon, and we have a stream every Wednesday that's just dedicated to them, and we kind of like test new music out on them, and
those are your hardcore fans.
And they're very awesome. And so we want to really do what we can to give back to that for their generosity. And then every Saturday is open to the public stream, and both those the every Saturday that's on Facebook, simultaneously on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, maybe. Yeah, I think it's on Twitch.
I hear the kids talking about Twitch.
Oh yeah. Twitch. It's like one behind TikTok, But anyway, so and that's how we've been keeping that fresh. And because of doing that, we kind of have a place where we can play, and so we can write to play on those shows, and so that kind of gets us writing again. Got us writing again, is doing those streams.
Was there a couple months in the beginning where you guys just all the jelly came out of the donut tire, all the air came out of the tires? Just
that's a great way to put it.
Sit around and wait.
Oh yeah. When all of the shows, in fact, we had a brilliant year planned, man, for this new album release and all this stuff. Oh yeah, all that went to zero. So we kind of lost some steam there, but we got back on the horse and said, let's do this. Let's do it best we can. And we've discovered a new medium, you know, and those news art programs come out of.
If for anyone who has not seen it, check it out. What's the name of the channel?
New Niveau.
How do you spell that?
New, like N-E-W, and the Niveau is N-I-V-E-A-U.
Okay.
It means new level.
And it's Les Nouvelles-Orléans.
Yeah, beautifully pronounced.
Thank you. I wrote it out phonetically for myself.
Great. And so doing those news bits and the other videos that we're making, like the Cajun fiddle, traditional Cajun fiddle and all that stuff, comes out of us doing these streams where we're broadcasters.
Yeah.
Now we have cameras and we a green screen and lights and all this stuff. It's like, okay, and so now we're
get
just,
you guys looped in. We started our own media empire here. So
boom, where everybody's doing it now. So
partner up.
It became impossible to buy a webcam or any of those things, and so luckily we had some of this gear going in. Otherwise, we'd be really hard up.
Yeah.
But and we had a lot of help, and the guys from Revivalists who we're close with, they we kind of pooled gear a little bit.
Yeah, Michael is in Jagged Little Pill, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Definitely, he's in everything, and so. We now we do that. Now we're video people, and so we've been doing a lot of video stuff to kind of keep the lights on, stay relevant, and it's honestly been, you know, it's not what it was supposed to be this year, but we have been able to make a lot of music because of it, and I guess write a lot of music too because of it. So that's the real thing, is we just want to be able to write music. Yeah,
strangely enough, I mean, not an artist, but tragedy seems to bring out some of the best art in people sometimes.
Time will tell what this art is going to be, and the thing about artists, though, is we're able to find tragedy.
Yeah,
we can invent it if it's not there.
Absolutely. You're local. You're from here, so you're down with the local eateries and such. Po' Boys. Now we have a place in the neighborhood called Guys Po' Boys. Nick, go ahead and logo for Guys. Thank you. Love them. Marvin's phenomenal. It's our neighborhood joint. There's others in the neighborhood. I'm not trying to trash Domelices or any of the other places, but that's just kind of our go-to. The guys from Galactic used to live across the street. They're real tight with Marvin and Guys, obviously. And Stanton has a po' boy called the Bomb. The Bomb is grilled catfish, grilled shrimp, Swiss cheddar dressed.
Okay.
What is the Sam Craft po' boy of choice? Do you have a favorite spot that you want to give props to? And if you are creating one, the Sam Craft, what is the Sam Craft?
Okay, here we go.
You get both of those. Do you,
all right.
Do you have a neighborhood
I'm going to cover two
to?
spots.
Okay.
One of my favorite po' boys is a sneaky po' boy in that it's not, I guess it's a known entity, but I had to live down the street from it to discover it, which is Frady's in the Bywater.
Yeah.
It's just a little corner store, a little corner deli.
I've heard of it. I've never been.
Yeah.
I've never lived in that area of town. So.
Yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't have gone if it wasn't just like right down the street. And they have an amazing surf and turf po' boy, which is their surf and turf is fried shrimp and roast beef.
Okay.
And in a hot sauce, and it's just so freaking good. And they always just have fresh bread. It's just really amazing, and they're just like a little corner grocery. I think it's like 3 generations working there.
Dude, there's plenty of phenomenal corner grocery po' boys. I mean,
exactly.
Gene started out that way. I mean, even Singleton's uptown, like it's like Korean po' boys and stuff. It's phenomenal.
Yeah,
you know.
So yeah, and that's the unassuming po' boy of my life that I love. And then for my I know what I'm doing.
Create the Sam. What's the Sam?
Well, I love Krabby Jacks.
Okay.
Which is the Giacomo's people, I think.
Yes.
Family. This was influenced by where I was living, which was in Old Jefferson. I was living down the street from it, and so it was very convenient. But man, talk about quantity. The Frady's po' boy was very tightly wrapped, and it's amazing, and I love it. But this for Krabby Jacks thing.
Krabby Jacks, they put enough fried seafood on your po' boy that falls off. You can make a whole nother po' boy out
absolutely.
of it. Yeah.
Love it. So big. I'm into quantity, so that does it for me. Is a Krabby Jacks. So I'd have to say that my best po' boy would be. I'm gonna go two different. I'm gonna bifurcate here.
You can do a half and half. One half is this. The other half is that.
I want a po' boy that is basically pizza. I want mozzarella and pepperonis and like red sauce and jalapenos and all that kind of stuff that I'd eat on a pizza. That's like one half of that's 6 inches. Okay. The other 6 inches is like every Louisiana protein imaginable.
Swamp platter style?
I'm talking, andouille, alligator, fried shrimp, boiled crawfish. I don't know how someone
just the tails, maybe?
Boil crawfish tails, throw them in there. Yeah, and why not catfish? I don't know how it all gets in there. It doesn't matter. I don't want to know.
You
fried
would
oysters.
Stack it, put it down, and then tie it.
We might need some like a toothpick situation to keep everything like united. Yeah, something tight.
Those are two different po' boys you're talking about. A pizza po' boy, which is actually probably closer to like the Godfather over if you ever go to Po' Boy Fest and get the Godfather.
Oh, I haven't had that one.
I think it has like veal sausage, pepperoni, whatever, and cheese and red gravy.
That adds up. No, I haven't had that, and I know it's like that's not unheard of. Like it seems like a thing. It's like you're getting into like calzone territory and.
French bread, so
French bread pizza is a thing too. So I guess that's not really that doesn't have a local flavor to it, but that's just an obsession of mine. That's just something I've dreamt of.
Hey, there's not enough cheese, sauce, and meat in the world. So
exactly. So I don't
never run out of it.
I'm not. Yeah. So I don't have any. I don't have any problem. Just going town on that.
Mm-hmm.
But to keep it local, I just want. Like it's like surf and turf is not enough. I want surf and surf and surf and surf and surf and turf and turf and turf and turf and turf. And I just want it to stack so high.
Dressed?
Here's the thing.
Okay.
I am like not a fan of mayonnaise. And
you should have kept that to yourself, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to admit that sort of thing.
Well, here I am saying it in front of God and everyone.
All right.
I don't really care about pickles either.
Okay.
So I would
maybe a Creole or yellow mustard, maybe? Or
I would do something like that.
I mean, you'd probably get maybe just some kind of debris to pour all over the
some
seafood
gravy,
and all the other
some
animals.
debris over all my animals. Some gravy all over all my animals. Probably something hot like a crystal.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
We support Crystal here.
Okay, we're just a Crystal family.
Yeah.
Great. So I'd put some Crystal on that thing, and I'd just go to town, man.
Mm-hmm.
So that's me.
That sounds pretty goddamn
That's
good.
the Sam.
That is the Sam. You heard it right here, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Kraft, thank you so much for your time. There is one thing I guess I never got to that I promised you I would get to. Sam Kraft was supposed to be here last Friday.
Oh, my gosh.
And we've only done a handful of these interviews so far, and it's been very casual. As you see, we don't take ourselves too terribly seriously here. But it was the first time that I actually went through management and didn't just like get a hold of someone's number and text them and be like, hey, what are you doing on Thursday? Like, do you want to come by and talk? Because I'll give you drinks or whatever. Like, whatever. We're just kind of doing this thing. I hope it works out and people might want to watch it one day. But lo and behold, Sam Kraft bailed on us, canceled, and what have you. But we do have a gift for everyone that does come and participate in the program. We give a certificate suitable for framing. Here's last week's. It had last week's date on it. I had to scratch it off. I'm not going to give you that one. We have a brand new one for you.
I'm honored.
So, here we go. Your certificate suitable for framing for participating in the All Right broadcast. We hereby certify that Sam Kraft, you are officially awesome for agreeing to participate in this for absolutely no monetary compensation. So, congratulations and you're welcome.
It actually says that. Congratulations and you're welcome.
It actually says congratulations and you're welcome. Yes. I'm going to give you a folder for it too, so you don't lose it. It is a certificate suitable for framing. So please feel free to frame that.
I will guard it with my life.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And
you are welcome.
Especially for may I never miss another.
No, there you go. Well, I would definitely, we'll have you come back for a part 2 because I know there's a couple of things that I wrote down on here.
Oh yeah, we went
that
long,
I did not
baby.
get to, and I want to speak to Alexis as well and get her sides of the story, which would be fun. Thank you so much to Tipitina's for allowing us to use the space, even though we didn't ask permission. We just started doing it. And thank you so much to Nugs.net for the usage of their equipment. Sorry for not giving you a little tag at the beginning, and your logo should be appearing right here. Check out all their great content. They've been doing it for a long time. They have tons of great stuff, especially from Tipitina's. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here at the All Right program. Ladies and gentlemen, Sam Kraft, I hope you have a good night. Thank you so much for being here, Sam.
Cheers. Thank you.
All right. All right.
You went loud, baby.
Man, yeah, that was a long time. I'm sorry.